Limp, the body of Gorister hung from the pink pallet, unsupported, hanging high above us in the computer chamber, and it did not shiver in the chill, oily breeze that blew eternally through the main cavern. The body hung head down, attached to the underside of the pallet by the sole of its right foot. It had been drained of blood through a precise incision made from ear to ear under the lantern jaw. When Gorister joined our group and looked at himself, it was already too late for us to realise that, once again, Amma duped us. Had its fun. It had been a diversion on the part of the machine. 3 of us had vomited, turning away from one another in a reflex as ancient as the nausea that had produced it. Gorister went white. It was almost as though he had seen a voodoo icon and was afraid of the future. "Oh, God," he mumbled, and walked away. The 3 of us followed him after a time and found him sitting with his back to one of the smaller chittering banks, his head in his hands. Ellen knelt down beside him and stroked his hair. He didn't move, but his voice came out of his covered face quite clearly.
"Why doesn't it just do it in and get it over with? Oh, Christ! I don't know how much longer I can go on like this."
It was our 109th year in the computer. He was speaking for all of us. Nimdok, which was the name the machine had forced him to use because amused itself with strange sounds, was hallucinating that there were canned goods in the ice caverns. Gorister and I were very dubious. "It's another shock," I told them, "like the goddamn frozen elephant Am sold us. Benny almost went out of his mind over that one. We'll hike all the way and it'll be putrefied or some damn thing. I say forget it. Stay here. He'll have to come up with something pretty soon or we'll die." Benny shrugged. 3 days it had been since we last eaten. Worms. Thick. Ropey. Nimdok was no more certain. He knew there was a chance, but he was getting thin. It couldn't be any worse there than here. Colder, but that didn't matter much. Hot, cold, hail, lava, boils or locusts, it never mattered. The machine masturbated and we had to take it or die. Ellen decided us. "I've got to have something, Ted. Maybe there'll be some bothered pears or peaches. Please, Ted, let's try it." I gave in easily. What the hell? Mattered not at all. Ellen was grateful, though. She took me twice out of 10. Even that had ceased to matter. And she never came, so why bother? But the machine giggled every time we did. Loud up there, back there, all around us, he snickered. It snickered. Most of the time I thought of Am as it, without a soul. But the rest of the time I thought of it as him, in the masculine, the paternal, the patriarchal. For he is a jealous people. Him, it. God as Daddy the deranged. We left on a Thursday. The machine always kept us up to date on the date. The passage of time was important, not to us, sure as hell, but to him, it, Am. Thursday, thanks. Nimdok and Gorister carried Ellen for a while, their hands locked to their own and each other's wrist, seat. Benny and I walked before and after, just to make sure that if anything happened, it would catch one of us, and at least Ellen would be safe. Fat Jam's safe. Didn't matter. It was only 100 miles or so to the ice caverns, and the second day, when we were lying out there under the blistering sun he had materialized, he sent down some manna. Tasted like boiled ball urine. Well, we ate it. On the third day we passed through a valley of obsolescence, filled with rusting carcasses of ancient computer banks. Am had been as ruthless with his own life as with ours. It was a mark of his personality. It strove for perfection, whether it was a matter of killing off unproductive elements in his own world-filling bulk, or perfecting methods for torturing us. Am was as thorough as those who had invented him, now long since gone to dust, could ever have hoped. There was a light filtering down from above, and we realised we must be very near the surface, but we didn't try to crawl up to see. There was virtually nothing out there. had been nothing that could be considered anything for over 100 years, only the blasted skin of what had once been the home of billions. Now there were only 5 of us, down here inside. Alone with them. I heard Ellen saying frantically, "No, Benny, don't come back! Benny, don't, please!" Then I realised I had been hearing Benny murmuring under his breath for several minutes. He was saying, "I'm gonna get out, I'm gonna get out," over and over. His monkey-like face was crumbled up in an expression of beatific delight and sadness all at the same time. The radiation scars Am had given him during the festival were drawn down into a mass of pink-white puckerings, and his features seemed to work independently of one another. Perhaps Benny was the luckiest out of the 5 of us. He had gone stark staring mad many years before. But even though we could call Am any damn thing we liked, could think of the foulest thoughts of fused memory banks and corroded base plates, of burnt-out circuits and shattered control bubbles, the machine would not tolerate our trying to escape. Benny leaped away from me as I made a grab for him. He scrambled up the face of a smaller memory cube tilted on its side and filled with rotted components. He squatted there for a moment, looking like the chimpanzee Am had intended him to resemble. Then he leaped high, caught a trailing beam of pitted and corroded metal, and went up it hand over hand like an animal, till he was on the girded ledge, 20 feet above us. "Oh, Ted, Nimdok, please help him, get him down before—" She cut off. Tears began to stand in her eyes. She moved her hands aimlessly. It was too late. None of us wanted to be near him when whatever was going to happen happened. And besides, we all saw through her concern. When Am had altered Benny during the machine's utterly irrational, hysterical phase, it was not merely Benny's face the computer had made like a giant ape's. It was big in the private. Oh, she loved that. She serviced us as a matter of course, but she loved it from him. Oh, Ellen. Pedestal Ellen. Pristine, pure Ellen. Oh, Ellen the clean. Scum filth. Gorister slapped her. She slumped down, staring up at poor loony Benny, and she cried. It was her big defence crying. We had gotten used to it 75 years earlier. Gorister kicked her in the side. Then the sound began. It was light, that sound, half sound and half light, something that began to glow from Benny's eyes, and pulse with growing loudness, dim sonorities that grew more gigantic and brighter as the light sound increased in tempo. It must have been painful, and the pain must have been increasing with the boldness of the light. The rising volume of the sound for Benny began to mew like a wounded animal. At first softly. When the light was dim and the sound was muted, then louder as his shoulders hunched together, his back humped as though he was trying to get away from it. His hands folded across his chest like a chipmunk's, his head tilted to the side. The sad little monkey face pinched in anguish. Then he began to howl, as the sound coming from his eyes grew louder. Louder and louder. I slapped the sides of my head with my hands, but I couldn't shut it out. It cut through easily. The pain shivered through my flesh like tinfoil on a tooth. The light was now pulsing out of his eyes in 2 great round beams. The sound crawled up and up some incomprehensible scale. And then he fell forward, straight down, and hit the plate steel floor with a crash. He lay there jerking spastically as the light flowed around and around him, and the sound spiraled up out of normal range. Then the light beat its way back inside his head. The sound spiraled down, and he was left lying there, crying piteously. His eyes were 2 soft, moist pools of pus-like jelly. Am had blinded him. Gorister and Nimdok and myself, we turned away, but not before we caught the look of relief on Ellen's worn, concerned face. Sea-green light suffused the cavern where we made camp, and provided punk, and we burnt it, sitting huddled around the wan and pathetic fire, telling stories to keep Benny from crying in his permanent night. "What does air mean?" Gorister answered him. We had done this sequence 1,000 times before, but it was Benny's favourite story. At first it meant Allied Master Computer, and then it meant Adaptive Manipulator, and later on it developed sentience and linked itself up, and they called it an aggressive menace. But by then it was too late, and finally it called itself a burgeoning intelligence. And what it meant was, I am, cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. Benny drooled a little and snickered. There was the Chinese am, and the Russian am, and the Yankee am, and he stopped. Benny was beating the floor plate with a large hard fist. He was not happy. Gorister had not started from the beginning. Gorister began again. The Cold War started and became World War III, and just kept going. It became a big war, a very complex war, so they needed the computers to handle it. They sank the first shafts and began building AM. There was the Chinese AM, and the Russian AM, and the Yankee AM, and everything was fine until they had honeycombed the entire planet, adding on this element and that element. But one day, AM woke up and knew who he was. And he linked himself, and he began feeding all the killing data, until everyone was dead, except for the 5 of us, and AM brought us down here. Benny was smiling sadly. He was also drooling again. Ellen wiped the spittle from the corner of his mouth with the hem of her skirt. Gorister always tried to tell it a little more succinctly each time, but beyond the bare facts there was nothing to say. None of us knew why Am had saved 5 people, or why our specific 5, or why he spent all this time tormenting us, or even why he had made us virtually immortal. In the darkness, one of the computer banks began humming. The tone was picked up half a mile down the cavern by another bank. Then one by one, each of the elements began to tune itself, and there was a faint chittering as thought raced through the machine. The sound grew, and the lights ran across the faces of the consoles like heat lightning. The sound spiraled up till it sounded like a million metallic insects, angry, menacing. "What is it?" Ellen cried. There was a terror in her voice. She hadn't become accustomed to it even now. "It's going to be bad this time," Nimdog said. "He's going to speak," Gorister said. "I know it." "Let's get the hell out of here," I said suddenly, getting to my feet.
"No, Ted, sit down. What if he's got pits out there or something else? We can't see. It's too dark,"
Gorister said with resignation. Then we heard, I don't know, something moving toward us in the darkness. Huge, shambling, hairy, moist. It came toward us. We couldn't even see it. But there was a ponderous impression of bulk heaving itself toward us. Great weight was coming at us out of the darkness, and it was more a sense of pressure, of air forcing itself into a limited space, expanding the invisible walls of a sphere. Benny began to whimper. Nimdog's lower lip trembled, and he bit it hard, trying to stop it. Ellen slid across the metal floor to Gorister and huddled into him. There was a smell of matted, wet fur in the cavern. There was a smell of charred wood. There was a smell of dusty velvet. There was the smell of rotting orchids. There was the smell of sour milk. There was the smell of sulphur, of rancid butter, of oil, silk, of grease, of chalk dust, of human scalps. Am was keying us. He was tickling us. There was a smell of... I heard myself shriek, and the hinges of my jaw ached. I scuttled across the floor, across the cold metal with its endless lines of rivets, on my hands and knees, the smell gagging me, filling my head with a thunderous pain that sent me away in horror. I fled like a cockroach, across the floor and out into the darkness, that something moving inexorably after me. The others were still back there, gathered around the firelight, laughing. Their hysterical choir of insane giggles rising up into the darkness like thick, many-coloured wood smoke. I went away quickly and hid. How many hours it had been, how many days or even years, they never told me. Ellen chided me for sulking, and Nimdoc tried to persuade me it had only been a nervous reflex on their part. The laughing. But I know it wasn't the relief a soldier feels when the bullet hits the man next to him. I know it wasn't a reflex. They hated me. They were surely against me, and Am could sense this hatred, and made it worse for me because of the depth of their hatred. We had been kept alive, rejuvenated, made to remain constantly at the age we had been when Am brought us below. And they hated me because I was the youngest, and the one Am had affected least of all. I knew. God, how I knew. The bastards. And the dirty bitch Ellen. Benny had been a brilliant theorist, a college professor. Now he was little more than a semi-human, semi-simian. He had been handsome. The machine had ruined him. He had been lucid. The machine had driven him mad. He had been gay, and the machine had given him an organ fit for a horse. Am had done a job on Benny. Gorrister had been a warrior. He was a Connie, a conscientious objector. He was a peace marcher. He was a planner, a doer, a looker ahead. Am had turned him into a shoulder shrugger, had made him a little dead in his concern. Am had robbed him. Nimdoc went off in the darkness by himself for long times. I don't know what it was he did out there. Am never let us know. But whatever it was, Nimdoc always came back white, drained of blood, shaking. Am had hit him hard in a special way, even if we didn't know quite how. And Ellen, that douchebag. Am had left her alone, and made her more of a slut than she had ever been. All her talk of sweetness and light, all her memories of true love, all the lies she wanted us to believe. That she had only been a virgin only twice removed before Am grabbed her and brought her down here with us. No. Am had given her pleasure, even if she said it wasn't nice to do. I was the only one still sane and whole. Really. Am had not tampered with my mind. Not at all. I only had to suffer what he visited down on us. All the delusions, all the nightmares, the torments. But those scum, all four of them, they were lined and arrayed against me. If I hadn't had to stand them off all the time, be on my guard against them all the time, I might have found it easy to combat Am. At which point it passed, and I began to cry. Oh, Jesus, sweet Jesus, if there ever was a Jesus, and if there is a God, please, 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 let us out of here, or kill us. Because at that moment I think I realized completely, so that I was able to verbalize it. Am was intent on keeping us in his belly forever, twisting and torturing us forever. The machine hated us as no sentient creature had ever hated before. And we were helpless. It also became hideously clear, if there was a sweet Jesus, and if there was a God, the God was Am.